Hi, everybody. Okay, on today's video, I have Missy, and she is from Australia, and I love her. She does some of the best card readings I've ever had. She's high energy, high octane, and she sets a goal for herself. She goes, and it's really fun just to watch her go. Um, uh, I'm gonna let her tell her story, but she had a time where she had one plan for life and it deviated, and then she kind of went into a place to start over. And so I wanted her to be able to share her story and where she is now, because she set goals and plans for herself and they have come to fruition faster than she expected. Okay,
Yeah.
Missy.
Hi, thank you so much for that. So my name is Missy, and a little bit about myself. So prior to this adventure that I was meant to start on, I have very heavily been involved in multiple spiritual practices, including, as you've mentioned, like readings and things like that as well. So it's always been a huge passion of mine. And one aspect, looking about a year ago, just over a year ago, it was all meant to come into effect in April of 2024, where I was going to take that to the next step and I was going to be venturing over to the States. I had lined up there a person that I was going to be staying with on my travels, and that person also had all the equipment to do for like to record spirits and things like that. And then I was going to use my mediumship skills to see what I can pick up in certain locations. And we're kind of going to do a bit of a joint effort that way. So it was something new for me. I had been doing mediumship for a long time, but I'd never worked with equipment. I'd never had the opportunity to be able to see if what I was picking up could also come through on the equipment and recording devices. And I had a huge big plan set in place, not just with this, but also meeting up with a whole heap of other readers that were based in the States. But this was going to be my primary focus and then branching out from there. So it was huge. And
I remember you were gonna go to Florida, right? Were you
yes, to
going to
Florida.
go to more than one place, or was it pretty much in and around Florida?
No, so originally that was going to be my base and my setup,
Okay, cool.
heading to Florida. And then from there was a few different other psychics and readers that I was going to meet up in different
So cool.
destinations. And then because I'd never been over to the States,
Mm,
so I was going to be over there for 3 months and go travel elsewhere and then come back. And because Aussies have the capability of doing that, we can come over to the States for 3 months and then depart and then come back again. So we've got that open to us. So what happened is I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to be gone, because there was a big plan, this was going to happen for a few years.
oh,
And so I actually thought, well, I can't keep my stuff in storage because that would be very expensive. It would almost be just the same to replace it. So I thought, well, I'll sell all of my possessions. I no longer, because I used to read out of a crystal shop, so I let them know I was like no longer going to be doing that, so they could find my replacement. My lease was coming up, so didn't re-sign my lease. I had my beautiful beloved pet, which I found a beautiful, amazing home for. And then I sold all my possessions, and a big part of my possessions I felt was an extension of myself. Because a big part of that is what I had been collecting for decades, which was all my spiritual books, and I had my own apothecary and lots of crystals, and majority of that was a big part of my own spiritual journey. And a lot of that were things that I had learned and utilized, and I had like over 80 tarot decks and everything like that. So it was a big part of me. And I was that committed that I had basically got myself down to 2 suitcases. One suitcase that had my clothes, and the other suitcase had, a handful of decks and a handful of crystals. have to travel lightly for going on planes. So it was very limited to what I had decided to keep. Um, and you know what? The universe kept getting in the way. Um, I kept having issues trying to book my ticket, going through multiple travel agencies. They never got back to me. So I try another one. They never got back to me. Emails got lost. So we never actually forward through booking the ticket. As far as I got was my passport. It got to about a week and a half before I was due to go. And I still couldn't book my ticket. And then probably about 5 days before I was meant to fly out, I had the person who was meant to be my base point of being over there pulled the pin.
Mm.
And I just went, whoa. And it was just,
Yeah, can we
what am
just
I going to do now?
yeah, can we just pause on that for a second? It sounds
Yeah.
like you were going to anyway. Just the fact that you had liquidated everything in your life,
Mhm.
you had gotten rid of all of your important to you, like your 80 decks is a lot. And I know people that
Yeah.
read love their deck collections. They love them.
Yeah.
And your apothecary was so like a bunch of different herbs that you had, crystals, and you love your crystals.
Yeah.
And then your pet, like and your lease, your livelihood, like all of it. You had let all of it go. And like you said, you just had the 2 bags and you were ready to take off to a place you'd never been. And trusting
Mhm.
somebody would be there on the other side, and then just to have it all come unraveled after
Yes.
you had already let go of everything. And it's like you can't go back and get all your stuff back.
No,
Like
no.
it's
Um,
gone.
and it was a huge like whoa moment. And it was, I was prepared to let it all go for this amazing adventure and insight and more skill sets that I can learn and develop, and getting to meet these amazing people that I've only been communicating online with for the last few
Mm,
years. I'd built some amazing online friendships. And realistically, without that accommodation sorted, I would not have been able to afford the trip, because if you just, a motel here, there, everywhere else, for
mm,
that duration of time, I would have been out of pocket tens of thousands of dollars.
right.
Um, Not to mention almost 5 grand for a return flight. So
Wow. Yeah.
um, so then when that happened, yes, there was a lot of emotions. There was a lot of frustration. Um, and when I got to that point, I'm like, what am I going to do now? I was, for a moment, and I will say for a moment, I was very lost, and I've got no idea what to do. Like you talk to a psychic about their future, and hey, we don't always have it all figured out, especially for ourselves, because sometimes it's hard to see what's happening when you're right in the middle of it. So like I do have lots of readers come to me, and I also go to other readers when I have some things that I just can't work out for myself. So um and it's like if I had really paid attention to my own intuition, I would have, like, looking back at it now, there were lots of signs that were happening, but I was so headstrong. This is what I was doing.
Mm.
Um, so I was ignoring all the red flags and just going, yeah, well, I'm still doing it. I'm still,
I will make it happen.
um,
Willpower will find a
yes,
way. Yeah.
yeah. And in the end, the universe went, no, you don't. That is not for you, not right now. Um, So I kind of went, well, I have to make another plan, and I have to do it very quick because my lease actually expires in a few days. I have no other arrangements. What am I going to do? And this idea popped into my head of going, well, um, I still want to travel, but right now that's kind of put the brakes on for overseas. And I went, well, I'm still going to travel, but maybe I'll explore my own beautiful country instead. I have traveled around Australia a lot, but never wholeheartedly by myself. It's always
Mm.
either been with a partner or with family or for work or things like that. I thought, well, I'll travel. And again, it was the accommodation thing. So I went, oh, let's do some pet sitting and house sitting. That's going
Mhm.
to allow me to do 2 weeks here, a month here, and really get to kind of travel around while I'm doing that, because the work that I still do, that I was doing at that point of time, because I do a lot of online stuff, would allow me to basically do it anywhere as long as I had enough to meet my everyday expenses. So I'll start putting all the feelers out. I had lined up somewhere in Cairns. I was going to be there for 5 to 6 weeks, pet sitting while she was away on business. And so this is now, we're moving into the beginning of April. I had a few weeks in between doing that. So I came up to my mum's and said, Mum, I need somewhere to stay. I don't have anywhere for the next few weeks. This doesn't start until the day after Anzac Day, which was the 26th of April. So I said, I need a few weeks. So I did that. And then a couple of days before that was meant to happen, I got another message saying, I'm sorry, my business trip isn't happening. I no longer need you
No.
here.
Oh, no. Oh.
So again, the universe has gone, no, you don't. I laugh about it now, but I was not laughing then.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, I was not laughing.
Not
Um,
funny when you're in the middle of it by any
no,
means. Like,
no.
so frustrating. So frustrating.
So it got to the point, and so what was going to happen is I had already reached out to multiple people, because I decided again I was still going to take those couple of years, and
Mhm.
I'd reached out to multiple people. So this is Cairns, which is kind of the very northern point of Queensland, and then I was going to start working my way down.
Mhm.
Um, and traveling, just go with the weather, and also just, travel where I was needed as well. So during a matter of about a week, I had probably almost a book full of contacts of a lot of people that hadn't yet made plans, but they're like, I do want a holiday in a certain time frame, will work around you. I let everyone know that I was a very spiritual person. I'll be doing readings in their home, and not with people coming in, but all online. And a lot
Yeah.
of people, I reached out to a lot of people in a spiritual community, and a lot of people loved that. A lot of people loved the fact that there would be a like-minded person in their home that would treat it with love and respect, the same as they would, for their own place, that isn't going to turn around and criticize them because they've got crystals everywhere, or that, they might have some pentacles up in places. And it's like, no, it's, you don't have to hide that stuff. It's okay. Um,
Right.
so
Were you were there
yeah.
pets too? Were you taking care of pets? Because I know you
Some
love
were, yeah, some
animals.
were with pets, and some were just their home needed a house sitter in. I
Cool.
even had some people had also reached out and said, see, because I read online and I read international, but also through multiple people in all areas of Australia, I also had a lot of clients reaching out to me and not even necessarily having needing a pet sitter or a house sitter, even just saying to me, hey, if you're ever down this way, I would love for you to come spend a couple of weeks.
Aw, that's
And
awesome.
even with them there and stuff like that. So it wasn't making special trips. It was just, as my
Yeah.
travels were going to happen. And I even had some people, like there was one person, amazing person, who owned a coffee shop, that said, and you can come stay here for a few weeks and we'll set up a little space on one of the tables and you can do some readings from there. And I was like, yeah, that sounds awesome, So there was
Yeah, that sounds
there
fun.
was a lot of things in the meantime. I was like, yeah, this could all really work.
Mhm.
But I hadn't locked in dates. So I was going to wait until I finished up there, because I didn't know yet if I wanted to explore more of that space. And I was kind of just going to start booking things a few weeks out each time, to go to the next location and the next and the next. And I tell you what, though, when that fell through, I just went, oh, not again. Like
Mhm.
my heart just sunk again. And oh, I was just, I don't know what to do. Do I try for another spot and get let down again? Um, and I just was kind of like, no, no, we'll sort it out. We'll work it out somewhere along the lines. And I just needed a little bit of time for me. Um, and in that meantime, so I mentioned I had stopped to at my mum's while we were
Mhm.
waiting to go to the next destination. And I will only touch base on this a little bit because it does get me rather emotional. I have no problem being vulnerable, but that's not necessarily what we're here for, but it is part of the story. My mother's partner, so my stepdad, he was in a home, he was not well, and he
Mm.
actually ended up passing away 3 days at the time that I was due to depart, so 3 days later.
Oh.
So when that actually happened, a big part of me felt like that's where I was meant to be. If I was overseas, I would not have been able to drop everything and come back financially at that point of time. And even if I was still in Australia but up at Cairns, because that's like almost 24-hour drive away.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah, Australia is actually a big place.
Yeah, it is, it is. It's as big as the US,
um,
like, people don't realize,
yeah,
like, it's huge.
almost as big.
Well, without Alaska,
um,
it's really
yeah,
close.
yeah. Um, so even if I was still up at Cairns, I would have been, because I was pet sitting and house
Mm,
sitting, I wouldn't have, because of my own morals and standards, I wouldn't have been able to turn around and go, I'm sorry, I have to abandon this because
mm,
I've got to get back. So
yeah.
a big part is it was meant to happen that I wasn't meant to go. Um, so the universe has different plans in store for us. Um, And so I was there to help support my mum and help her through that time. And um, there was a lot of complicated things in that and stuff as well. So let's fast forward past that.
Before you do,
During yeah,
I would just, like, um I would like if you could kind of, because you are a very spiritual person, but you're also human. And I
yeah.
think sometimes people think that spiritual people don't struggle, or
Oh,
it's like the human side of that. Do you know what I mean? Like, and especially because with your mediumship, you can really connect. You can even connect to the other side. So it's like this beloved person has passed, and it's like, can you just kind of share some of your personal experience about having the gifts that you have and still
mhm.
having such a, like, visceral human experience?
So for example, when I read for people doing mediumship, so for anyone who doesn't understand, psychic is when we're actually getting intuitive messages, like we can use tools like tarot cards and things like that. And mediumship's when we connect to those who have passed. So there is a difference, just for if anyone's watching and they go, oh, is it the same thing? Because it's not.
Right.
um, so every medium is psychic, but not every psychic is a medium. Um,
Good to know.
so with mediumship, personally, when I do mediumship, I like to do what I call evidential mediumship, and I like to provide information such as traits and characteristics, and sometimes it's even how they died, to the person who's inquiring about their past loved one without knowing any information but their name. And so I give them kind of this, and I get yes, 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 that's correct. That helps me to identify and establish that I've got that correct connection. Okay.
Mhm.
And even though this isn't exactly what you asked, it is important because
Yeah.
what I also find is I don't often like to read and tap into doing mediumship for those people that I've been personally close to. And the reason that I usually do that is because when we do mediumship, it's really important that you're almost kind of allowing yourself to remove yourself from that situation, from that presence, and just allow whatever information to be channeled through. Now, if we have a close connection to someone who has passed, sometimes it's hard to put our own emotions to the side, or our own thoughts or our own memories to the side. So usually, because like I don't want to do a reading for someone and have my own thoughts and memories start creeping in, it's
That makes
really
sense.
important that I leave anything to do with me outside of that connection. Okay. So it can at times be difficult, especially when they want to just pop in. So I do always have firm boundaries in place, as well. So and I have actually had, my stepdad has come through unannounced. We weren't trying to connect. He just was doing it anyway. And
Just popping
it's
in to say hi.
yeah, and it
Oh.
makes it very, very difficult because I have my own perceptions, beliefs, memories. And this was messages for my mum, and she has
Mm.
her own perceptions, beliefs, and memories as well. And then, so you have, um, you know how they always say there's three sides of the story. So you have one person's perception, another person's perception, and then what's really going on. Okay,
Mhm.
it's the same thing for mediumship.
So
So it's
cool.
important for me to leave my perception out of it and just allow whatever messages to come through. It's also important that even though I'm connecting to the other person, who is inquiring about their past loved one, that I do use their energy to connect, but I want to ensure that I'm not only grabbing hold of their memories and their energy only
Mm.
linked to it. I'm
Yeah.
trying to connect directly just with those who have passed. And that can be really difficult, especially when you're really tuned into someone who's living in their energy. Okay. So sometimes things that they want to inquire about are things that they do not know the answers to. And I need to ensure that it's not just what they want to hear.
Oh, that makes sense.
So And that's why when I personally know them or have known them or know of them or have heard amazing stories about them, I have to kind of grab all of that and put it over there and go, I need me to stay out of that, and just allow myself to be that vessel. And it's it's very difficult, especially when I have certain memories on events that are not the information they're trying to bring across.
Mm. That
Um,
makes
so I usually have a blanket rule that I don't like to read for people who have been in my own personal life that have passed, to do mediumship that way. Because I don't want my 2 cents being added into it, if that makes sense.
I think it makes a
Um,
lot of sense. Like if you're a lawyer, like if you're a family lawyer, you don't want to get involved if you're like if a friend of the family is having
yeah,
problems, you're not going to want to represent them because you have too much personal. Or
yeah,
like being a
conflict of
doctor
interest.
for people, like that can
Mhm.
there's people that can do that, but there's other people who might not want to be like a general practitioner for a family that they're
Mhm.
close to just because it's
Yeah.
like you said, the personal can really kind of creep into that more business, like doing things as business. And I think that's really powerful because it's like sometimes when you have spiritual gifts, people think that you have an elevated way of living, but it is it's a skill, it's a craft, it's something that you're providing as a livelihood, and you're still a very human, like living a human life with your own needs and wants and dreams and blind spots, the whole thing. And I
Yeah.
just really like that because I think sometimes there's an elevated sense of what it is to be like spiritually focused, and it's the same thing as everybody else's, just a different tilt kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I am going to share one little encounter that happened.
Cool.
So when he passed away, we ended up using some of his ashes to put in jewelry. And for myself, I ended up having a little crystal kyanite ring that his ashes were placed into. So not this one that I wear, because this one was a gift from my mama. It was one that fit on the little pinky finger. I've actually had to stop wearing it because what used to happen, and I was unaware of this, so the first few times where I had worn it, I would find at home, I'm like, Mum, what's going on? My hand's shaking. And my little pinky would start twitching and everything like that. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I'm getting pains down my hands. And she just looked at me. I'm like, what? She said, oh, that's the same thing that Brian used to always have. So Brian was my stepdad.
Mm.
And I'm like, really? I'm like, I knew he had twitches in his legs and stuff. And she said, no, the last few months and stuff, his little pinky used to always twitch and everything like that. And I'm like, oh, so I'd have to just take it straight off. um, so I get little things like that
Yeah.
happen. And as I said earlier as well, I ensure that I'm always have strong spiritual boundaries as well. So just as much as everyday people have strong boundaries for other people in their lives, or we're meant to, we don't always, but we are meant to.
Right.
We also have to have strong boundaries for those who have passed as well.
I don't mean to laugh because but it's just how many people think about having boundaries with the dead. So I think that part's funny. But I love
I
that you
never
said
used
that.
to.
And as a medium, like that's a big part of your life. So it's like it makes
Yeah,
sense that you need to have boundaries because otherwise you could have spirits showing up 24/7, just like the Sixth
yes,
Sense, that show. Like if
yes.
only he had good boundaries.
And trust me, it took a very long time for me to learn how to assert those boundaries. Um, and look, I might look crazy sometimes because I'd be getting around at home and my ears would start going off, and I'm like, oh, there's someone who wants to connect through. And quite often it's because I had a booking in place for someone over the next hour or something, and I'd probably look crazy because I'd turn around and just go away. Okay, you come back during the appointment time. I'm not listening to you now. Go away. Um,
You're too early. Come back when you're scheduled. It's just so great.
and almost to the T whenever someone was after mediumship. And sometimes I wouldn't know that they were after mediumship because I also do tarot readings and multiple other things. So quite often it's not until I'm right there doing the reading for someone that they're like, I've got someone I want to connect to. And I'm like, yeah, they came early. Um,
I already met him.
so yeah, that happens as well. And the thing is, what I have also found during this time is, especially with those that we have known while they were alive, they are really, really hard sometimes to assert those boundaries,
Mm,
especially if they have been those that we have tried to release and cut cords with while they
yeah.
were alive. So this wasn't the case with my stepdad, but there have been other family members and people that I have known through my life that have passed away, that when I was a lot younger and before I learnt properly how to assert my boundaries in the physical world with people who are alive, I used to get walked over a lot. I was very much a people pleaser. It took me a long time to even understand what a people pleaser was. A lot of shadow work to kind of even open my eyes up to that, to learn how to assert those boundaries. And through a lot of my life, a lot of direct people were quite toxic.
Mm,
There was my own part in that, because we all have to accept our responsibility, that if I had learnt how to assert my boundaries earlier, I would have very easily have been able to go, hey, that's not okay, and assert boundaries, and then from there cut them out if they no longer respected them. But over decades, I wasn't aware of that. So when I eventually just got sick of some people, I just like, no, enough of you. I don't need you in my life. So I went from not even, from being walked over to going, nope, that's not good enough. But I didn't do that little step in between of actually saying to them and communicating to them,
mm.
that's not okay. Can we try this a different way, Um,
Sometimes, though, when you're first learning those skills, you don't really have the negotiation, and sometimes it's just in inviting them another like, you want to cut that energy off,
Mhm.
um, but they'll just find another way of walking on you if you're engaging. So I can understand, like, there is sometimes abandoning ship is not the way to go, and yet when you don't have that skill set, because it's still something you have to learn, like, it's one thing to learn
Yeah.
and be like, "No, that's not okay. Boundaries are a must. I can't continue to allow you to treat me this way."
Mhm.
And I guess if it's somebody that you feel you can trust and maybe it's just but sometimes, like, it can involve, like, just another layer of manipulation.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, like, you do the best you can with the skills that you have at the time, and hopefully
Mhm.
you learn to bridge those gaps so you don't make that a chronic, continuation, because that is really you don't have anyone left if you just keep
Yeah,
abandoning ship all the time.
exactly.
Um, but yeah,
And I
yeah.
and I've also found though, so there was a purpose for sidetracking there. So I have found sometimes those who never respected my boundaries when they were alive,
Oh.
trying to communicate with me and push themselves into my life after they have passed. Yes, that's a thing.
That's really and it makes sense. I just
So yeah, it's like, think of it kind of like this lighthouse and everything being dark to them, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I see that lighthouse. Let's go have a look. And if it just so happens to be, oh, I know you. Oh,
mhm.
you're going to give me the answers I need. You're going to
Mm,
do what I ask you to do. And I will let you know that not everything is love and light on the other side. There is some amazing, beautiful experiences. There really is. Don't let me ever take that away from anybody, because so many connections that I have with others are tear jerking and amazing, loving energy. But there is also some energies of others that still remains toxic, that
huh.
still remains demanding and controlling and manipulative. I
Can
don't
I
come across it very often. Yes, sorry. Yep.
I know that this is kind of going on like, we've gone off topic and we're at, like, a few but this is so interesting to me, and with the whole idea of this being, like, the idea of transitions and what comes after and not ever going back. I mean, that's death is the ultimate transition, and I love hearing you talk about things on the other side because I have a belief in the afterlife, but hearing you talk about it and even talking about the continuation of, like, bad boundaries and toxicity, there's some amount of comfort I find because 'cause I'm like, "Oh, like, at lea" not that I want to have that's not an invitation for toxicity from the other side, um, but what I wanted to ask is, like, do you think that that can happen since you're a medium, of course, spirits can be drawn to that, like you said, with the light, but do you think that can happen to people who maybe are not mediums or people who have mediumship skills that
Yes.
are not open, where
Yes.
past beings might have some influence on them?
Yes.
Okay,
Very much so.
interesting.
I do want to address, though, also that not everyone who was toxic or manipulative while they were alive continues through that behavior.
That makes sense
So,
too.
what I have found over the years, and not just with my own experiences, but also with others that I've read for. Majority of the time, it's beautiful, amazing things. As I said, I don't like to know anything about the person beforehand. That way I can just deliver whatever it is that I get through. And sometimes I've shared some things with people and I've thought, ooh, like it's not my job to gatekeep that information.
Mm.
Yes, we still need to deliver it in a way that's not hurtful and harmful, but we do not have the right to dictate what information they should receive or not. So I stand very strongly on that. And sometimes the information they receive, in my mind, I'm going, oh, I don't know if I should say this, but it was given to me for a reason to pass on. And quite often when I then do pass that information on to the other person, they really can acknowledge it. And if I gave it to them any other way or I tried to sugarcoat it, it wouldn't make sense to them, or they
Wow.
would not be able to identify that that was the spirit that I was trying to connect with. So truth and honesty, and our jobs as mediums is to relay the message. Okay. We're that channel, we're that vessel. It's the same as if someone was to write a story down when they're putting pen to paper, it's not that pen and paper's job to then change the story they were trying to write. It's just there to
Yeah.
deliver that message.
I love that analogy.
So I knew you would.
Yeah, you know me well enough. So I know we kind of took a little bit of a side quest.
So
I
you want us
love
to
that
go back
though.
around?
Yeah, I want to go back to when you were about to say, let's skip forward a little bit when you were talking
Yeah.
about passing of your stepdad. So
Yes.
continuing on.
So you can have me back another time. We can get into depth to do that
Yes.
another
Oh,
time.
oh, yes. I was just thinking, I was like, you know what? It'd be great to have an episode on you talking about the transition between worlds. Like, that's actually, yes. All right.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to your amazing crystal shop because you can see it in the background. And I
Some of
love this
it.
so much. Like, when we started talking again, you were living, like, everything was like filling up the space at home for you. And now
Oh,
you're in a
yes.
whole shop and it moved so fast. So, yeah, I want to go back to that.
Yeah. So, look, there was a lot of little hurdles in between. We don't need to go into details with that. But over the course of it, literally took 1 year from that first encounter of not going overseas to open up here. So it was the end of March that I signed the lease for here. And it was only a few days prior. I actually made a split decision. I just knew
Mm,
after everything else that had happened. I was actually only that morning talking to my mum because, yes, this whole year I have ended up then staying with my mum. And oh, I love her so much. There's no way that I would have been able to do any of this without her support. So that's another
mm.
thing, is to always know that we have someone there that can support us. Um, oh, it's trying at times. Don't get me wrong, but I still love her with all my heart and so grateful
Mm.
with everything that she's always helped me with. And I was talking to her saying, so what happened from about August last year, end of August last year, because I had rehomed all my crystals, and I had a lot in my own personal collection. I wasn't selling crystals then. When I was reading for others, I was reading out of crystal shops. So if I did a reading for someone and I could pick up that someone needed certain crystals, I'd walk out to the crystal shop and here you go, this will help you and this will help you and this will help you. So I was kind of like,
Yeah.
helping my clients to align with what they needed to help them in their situation. So then, yeah, about August last year, because there was other little things that happened in the meantime that kind of made me completely shut down. And I was like, no, I want to get back what I what I had. I want to get back what I lost. And one part of that was, well, I had a lot of stuff I want to kind of just, I utilized basically what I had received from selling all my stuff already over those few months, because there was a few months that I wasn't working because I was grieving and all that sort of stuff as well. And so I was kind of down to next to nothing. And I ended up going, what am I doing? And I decided I wanted to top up my own personal crystal collection with what little I had left, because that was
Oh.
important to me. So I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. And I ended up, because I wanted to spend quite a bit. So I actually found a wholesaler and I put in an order for close to $1,000 worth of crystals wholesale. And I went, oh, look at this and this. But in order for me to get them that price, I had to kind of buy multiple of certain ones. And I went, you know what? I'll pick out the best of the best for myself, and then I can just sell those on just to get my money back on those. That's what the
Mhm.
plan was back then. And then I don't know how I stumbled across it. I found another wholesaler. I was like, oh, I like that crystal. I need that. But as with all wholesalers, they have minimum requirements of what you need to purchase. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'll order this. Next minute, my personal crystal collection grew. And then that happened again, then that happened again, then that happened again. Then I got to the stage within about a month that I went, I got a lot of crystals. What am I going to do? A lot of double ups. And I went, well, this goes hand in hand, because the previous experience reading in crystal shops and then recommending certain crystals, and all the crystals I chose were ones for specific spiritual meanings that
Mm.
I personally use myself. So I had no doubt whatsoever recommending those crystals for people when I was reading online for them and saying, well, this one would help and this one would help based upon certain things that we picked up. So I kind of started doing it that way.
Well, and
And then
I
I had,
I
yeah,
just have to interject here because I'm in your Facebook group that you would sell some of the crystals. And what you're overlooking is that you have amazing taste and that everything that you have, like, you sell beautiful crystals. Like, you might talk about keeping the best of the best, but everything that I have seen you sell has been a showpiece.
yeah. Well, I do handpick everything as well.
Yeah, and
So
you have great taste. So it's
thank
yeah.
you. So even if I am not able to be in person at their warehouse, we do video calls. And
Mhm.
I take a couple of hours with each wholesaler each week, and I go, no, hang on, do a quick scan. No, go back, that one has to be that one. And then I'll bring it up. I'm like, yeah, that's it. Put that in my cart. Okay, next one. Like, that's what we do. Um,
I mean, having a medium pick out your crystals is kind of a win-win. Just saying.
And it's funny, at the end of it, I quite often get them going, God, you've got good taste. Like, I wouldn't have even picked half of these. I'm like,
Just
yeah.
saying, yeah.
So I started doing that. And then I really kind of got a thirst for these crystals. And I wanted more and I wanted more. And I was like, I must be like this little dragon with my big collection of crystals.
I love that, yes.
Um, And see, I see it now that as much as, and I love every single one of them. Well, I handpick them out,
Right.
and I kind of see it that as much as I love, and sometimes I almost have a tear come to my eye with, like, if any of the big
Mhm.
statement pieces get rehomed, um, because I love every single one of them, but I find that I'm just the caretaker of these crystals until they
Like
find their forever home,
like the
you know?
foster parent or the foster
Yeah.
yeah, like how people foster animals. Yeah, you're fostering the crystals. I love that.
So they're all special. They all get energy put into them on a regular basis as
Mhm.
well. I even get people from overseas reach out to me as much as they could just go down to their local little crystal store. They reach out to me and say, can we do a video call? Can I like pick some
Mhm.
crystals out and stuff? And so like I do ship to the US, Canada, New Zealand, the UK as well. So like I do regularly have people go, yeah, I want to shop. How do I shop? So it's like, yeah,
Well,
let's do a video call and we can shop that way. And
love that.
it's not just them picking it out. A big part is sometimes they say, hey, I've got this, what can help me with that? Other times it's like, you're happy for me to just jump in there and kind of just jump into their energy and see what they need and make certain recommendations. So it's almost like they're getting a bit of a reading based upon what crystals they need.
It's like your
Um,
personal shopper, like, or like
yeah,
if a stylist for clothes, but you're doing it for energy with crystals, which is
yeah,
amazing. That's
yeah.
a like an amazing service. And I love like every picture I ever see of your shop, and you had a coffee table and you had to take the coffee table out. Like this was just recently in your post and I just love it. You had to because you needed more storage. And it was such a pretty picture. And even just like your background. And you we were talking about the purple lights and you're saying that you have like UV lights for those particular. I love the like the whole aura of your shop. I just think is so amazing. And I just love your story so much because you were like, you had this epic journey. I didn't know you were going to do mediumship with equipment. Like, that's amazing to me. But you had this whole adventure planned out and it didn't happen. And then you had more adventures planned out that didn't quite happen. And then your stepdad passed. And now you have a whole shop of your own where you're
Yeah.
doing the readings, but you're also doing crystals. And it just, the passion and drive that you have for it is just, it's just delicious.
Yes.
I
Oh, I
wanted
never
to
thought of it that
ask,
way. I love that.
well, can you, because we were talking about the mediumship, and you mentioned that
Mhm.
you do send your crystals internationally. When you do mediumship, can you do that over the internet, or does that need to be in person?
No, so I can do it all
Mm.
online. So when someone wants to not come in store, we set
Mhm.
up like just a video call like this.
Okay,
And
cool.
basically, what we do is so I don't do it the way as in let's just see who's around you at present moment. I'm sorry, I don't play them games. Okay,
Okay.
because we are aware that anything's out there. And I don't want to just, as I said, like it's not just boundaries for those who have passed. Like I need to assert boundaries for all spiritual things as well. That's very, very important. So important to protect
Mhm.
my own energy. So I like to connect with a name. So I think of it like it's like me picking up the telephone, and we're not doing telephone like this. It's like one of those old fashioned telephones. Okay. We're picking up a
Yeah.
telephone and I'm dialing into their direct line. Okay. And with that telephone, you can dial in to anywhere. But I'm not just randomly sending it out there to go, let's just call out and see who picks up. No,
Yeah, I could
I want to just zone straight into them.
nice. That seems like a
So,
safer way to
yeah,
do it, especially because most of the people that are gonna come to you would have a specific most likely have one specific person or a few people that they would
yeah,
want contact with, not just any random
hmm,
spirit that might be hanging around in their space.
yeah, yeah. And quite often it's there to help open. Um, Sometimes people just need that little bit of comfort.
Mhm.
Uh, Other times it can help them to gain closure.
Mhm.
Um, it can help them open their eyes up to other things and to know that they're not alone, even if someone from their whole entire existence, when their whole world fell apart when they passed away, um, just to be able to pick up on knowing when they're around. So, when you said earlier, when you asked about even if someone's not a medium or they haven't developed those gifts yet or anything, can they still have the same things happen? So, anybody, if they are open to it and aware of what the signs are, and they're different for each person, okay, then they will be able to pick up when their past loved ones are around them.
Mm.
So sometimes, for example, I'll do a mediumship reading with somebody, and I may, for example, feel little tickles coming up and down their arm or something like that. Because again, I I exit out of my own body and just allow whatever to come through so I can just feel it on myself. And one occasion I had these little tickles coming up and down the arm. And it's not happening directly to me. It's like I'm feeling it on the other person because I am also an empath. So I feel physically and emotionally what others feel as well. So when they were getting these little tickles up and down their arm, they weren't entirely tuned into them by saying, I can feel this. And they could relate with saying that when their daughter, very young daughter, was in hospital, she would do that. The mum would do that to her arm all the time to let her know that she's there, even though she wasn't always awake and she was in and out of consciousness on a regular basis. And when I mentioned to her, because I wasn't aware of any of that beforehand, when I mentioned that to her, she said, "Oh, yeah, like I know exactly what that is." And I said, so I want you to pay attention sometimes if you just feel like you get these goosebumps or your hairs stand on end along your arm. And then just pay attention to that sensation if you feel these light little tingles and stuff. She said, yeah, I do feel that sometimes. That's her
Wow.
letting you know she's there. And she just, like even when I talk about it now, I get very emotional when I form these connections as well. And from that moment on, she was aware whenever she felt that, she knew her little girl was around her, you know? So, oh,
That's amazing. I love that story. I love
yeah.
that.
So, moving forward, she can be aware of that each time,
Yeah.
you know?
Mhm. And it may be easier for her to move forward knowing that that connection continues even though it's not in the form like our physical world, like, they're still
Yeah.
connected.
Yeah, very much so. And that happens with lots of different people as well. And it's different signs, and quite often it's a sign of something that was unique to them and their own experiences. Um, I've had another person where I said to them, "Oh, I felt like someone just kicked me." And they're like, "What?" Looking at me strange. I said, "Yeah, I just got like this, when you walk into a coffee table or something, you bang your shin and you feel that
Yeah,
sort of direct impact." And I just
yeah.
felt that. I was like, "Oh," and
Hmm.
I described that to them because I didn't know exactly what it was. So I just described it to them. They're like, "My brother used to do that all the time, would kick me in the shins." I said, "Do you still get that?" And he's like, "Yep."
Huh.
That's him. That's his way of telling you when he's there. Rather than giving you a kick up the
Wow.
butt when you're doing the wrong thing, this is his little sign to let you know. So it's quite often just something very similar to what you shared as a joint connection. And that's their method of letting you know. Other people sometimes you may have found that somebody absolutely loved dragonflies or something like that. So then they'll regularly see dragonflies.
Mm. It makes me think about people that I've loved and lost and, like, things that may, it just makes me wonder, like, with the spirits behind, like, what are they trying to communicate? So I'm
Mhm,
gonna pay a little more attention because
mhm.
I never really thought about it, you know?
And knowledge is power as well.
Mhm.
So
That's
it's the
true.
same as knowledge and acknowledging. So we can't heal from things until we acknowledge it. But also, when we acknowledge different signs and symbols and things happening around us, then we become more aware of it and we begin to start noticing it more as well. So pay attention to those little synchronicities and things like
Yeah.
that. And you can even throw in little questions like, it doesn't matter if you feel like you look silly, okay? Who cares what other people think? If you get something and you go, oh, so and so used to always do that, then just ask the question and say, hey, are you still around? Like, is this you? Like, and just wait for another sign. You may find, if it was, for example, a dragonfly, okay, you may find the dragonfly then hovers in front of your eyes. So the thing is, some people sometimes think that when we can have to communicate with someone on the other side, sometimes they think, oh, you must see them and hear them like they are a normal person. It's like, that's not always the case. Communication comes in so many different forms. And what's happening is they're trying to communicate with their loved one in a way that they're going to recognize it. Quite often we'll get those messages in our dreams as well, because that's when we switch off from reality and we actually just allow things to come through.
That's such a powerful message that communication has, like, tries to come through many different forms.
Mm-hmm.
Everything you said has been really amazing, but something about that just like really strikes me because not everything communicates in English or on with pen and paper or, just straightforward. And so it's
Oh,
just like,
saying that, sorry, didn't mean
no,
to cut you off.
no, go ahead.
Okay, so mirror the portals, right?
Hmm.
Hence why it's very important that we have to seal our mirrors when they're not in use, okay? And we pretty much only have a couple of mirrors in the house, and I was in front of the bathroom mirror, and I can't remember the words now, but because I have like back problems and I rub the oil on my back and then I kind of like come up to my shoulders and do up around my shoulders as well. And I was staring in the mirror and then I started speaking these words that were not English.
Hmm.
I was like, what? They were just random little words. I'm like, looking at myself, yelled out to my mom. I don't know what this means. So I'm trying to type it the way that it sounded.
Uh-huh.
And the words that came through were Maori.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know how to speak it. And then when I put all the words together over the course of a week, oh, that whole sentence made complete sense. So much sense to what was going on at that present time. And it was just really weird that, so as you said, that
Yeah.
it's not always English. Yeah, like everything can be a sign, but not everything always is a sign as well. So
Yeah.
we have to kind of be aware of that as well, so that we are still living in reality, but we are also open to what we cannot see with our own eyes.
Also really good advice. And I really love it coming from you because you're so deeply connected to, like, you're so sensitive to different areas of the world that most people don't have sensitivities to.
Yeah.
So for you saying that, I feel like you have expertise. It's like, things can be signs, but not everything's a sign, and you still have to live in reality. Like it's
Yeah.
really good tips.
Yeah. Well, was there anything else you
No,
wanted to
I
touch
feel like
base on? We
that
digressed
was,
a lot, same as my journey. We digressed a lot.
but it was beautiful, and I really loved everything that you shared. And we did go through the journey that I wanted you to share, and then many
Yeah.
other things that maybe other people need to hear. I don't know. This is all just fun for now. And I think that like we both kind of stopped at the same point, and I was like, this feels like the natural ending. So yeah, I'm good with wrapping this up. Thank you so much. I know I said it'd be like 20 minutes, but I really appreciate you carving the time that you did. I'm gonna end this, and then you'll still be
Awesome.
on. So just a sec.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.